Hope you had a good long weekend. uh, and welcome, and thank you for joining today. Again, we will start like as usual with a short mindful breathing exercise, followed by generating good intention, motivation for being here. So make yourself comfortable, relaxed, and keep your mind or attention to the breath. As you breathe in and out, observing, watching mindfully, and being aware as you inhale and exhale. If your mind gets distracted, you can always bring back the breath anytime. And we can think how fortunate and lucky we are to have this precious human life. Of course, it's not perfect. Of course, there's a lot of challenges, problem, suffering in our life. But with this human life, this precious human life, if we can utilize it correctly, properly, we can stop this never-ending, endless cycle of suffering, birth and death. Not only that, we can achieve fully awakened state and be the source of greatest help and benefit to each and every sentient being. Therefore, despite all this, despite all the challenges and suffering, this precious human life has incredible potential. Therefore, it's extremely precious. I'm so thankful, grateful to have this precious human life. Even though it's so precious, but it does not last forever. So therefore, I must make use of this life as much as possible before the Lord of the dead take it away. And make my life more meaningful with a higher, better purpose. And the way to make our life more meaningful with a higher and better purpose to engage in the practice, Dhamma practice. Trying to reduce and abandon all those destructive, negative emotions. And trying to cultivate and improve and increase those constructive, beneficial attitude, thoughts, and the mind, or the mind. To do that, I need to contemplate, meditate, practice continuously. And for that, we have to be reminded of that. And we continue to study, learn, hear the teachings. Therefore, I'm going to listen to the teachings discuss and engage in discussions and reflect and contemplating. May our act of coming here together to listen, our precious time, energy, resources, may all of this become cause and conditions to achieve our highest potential, a fully awakened state. So we can be beneficial, helpful all the time to all the sentient beings. Okay.
Let's recite taking refuge and generate bodhicitta once in English and twice in Tibetan. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye Chodan Soki Chonam Ba Jonchu Bardu Dagni Kapsuchi Dagi Chonen Gepe Sognangi Jola Penshir Sangye Drupa Sho Sangye Chodan Soki Chonam Ba Jonchu Bardu Dagni Kapsuchi Dagi chonin gepe sognangi jola penche sange drupa sho.
현재 도전에서는 또 dom제 방매제 담배전에 대해 보dom대 라차서 So we just started this Lamrim or graduate path to enlightenment by the Third Dalai Lama. And we finished the part where he talked about the importance of the teachers in our spiritual path. And in order to have such as spiritual teachers in our life, the importance of understanding the relationship, what it means, and then before we build such a relationship, knowing what are the qualities for such authentic qualified teachers, as well as for students as well. On the basis of those understanding, and once we have such relationship, then trying to rely correctly with the thought and actions, and then to receive those teachings and instructions, advices, oral transmission, so forth, from such teachers, so that we can make our life more meaningful and to make our life more meaningful with higher purpose instead of just spending your life, eating, sleeping, doing other things and just distracting ourselves. where at the end of our life, there's nothing really much to show. There's nothing really meaningful to show what you have done in your life, you know. So in order to make most of our this precious human life, then we have to understand how precious this human life is, how valuable it is, and how rare and difficult it is to have such precious human life with, you know, with the conditions that is free from the obstacle to practice the Dharma and having gathered the conducive conditions. And so it is on the section on that, where it's page number 8, where it says human situations. And yeah, where did it go? And where we talk a little bit about the practice. Practice means taking upon yourself the responsibility of continually living in according to the Holy Dharma, the teaching given to you by your spiritual guide. Through working with the teacher and the law of cause and effect, you can take advantage of your extremely valuable human life, a life form hard to find, is rare, you know. And once found, is very meaningful, you know. First of all, not all the life have same, you know, conditions, you know. If we look, let's say the life of animal that we can, among the other life that we can see, animals, they don't have the same conditions like we have to practice the Dharma, to be able to contemplate, meditate, you know. They don't have some same conditions like we have to do that. In some other area, they might be better. You know, some animal can see very far distant with their eyes. Some animal can smell from very, very distant, you know. But when it comes to practicing the Dharma, you know, meditating, contemplating, practice, they don't have the same opportunity or condition like we have. Even within the human beings, not all human beings have the same conditions, you know. Throughout the world, you know, within the human history, there are times when the Dharma is not available. And even when Dharma is available, there are places where people cannot practice. They don't have the freedom of spiritual practice. And within the places and countries where there is a freedom to practice whatever you practice, sometimes there is no available of the teachers, there is no available of the Dharma centers, you know. So again, so not everyone have that condition. And sometimes there is the center, there is the Dharma available, but then you don't have the interest. Or you don't have the time. You have interest, but somehow you cannot find the time. Maybe next time, next year. So to have all these conditions is very rare, is very rare. And we have to understand that, how fortunate we are to have a human life with all these right conditions, free from the 8 unfortunate circumstances that are the obstacles to practice the Dharma, and have gathered all the 10 conducive conditions, the 10 endowments, that all the right conditions, conducive condition practice the Dharma. So recognizing those 18 qualities, 8 freedom and 10 endowments, and because of that, we have the right condition to practice the Dharma, and therefore feeling, how precious it is, understanding the preciousness of that. And feeling grateful every day. If nothing else, even though things are not going so well in our life, at least we have this precious human life. Recognizing that, understanding, recognizing, and feeling grateful every day. That at least, if nothing else, at least we have this precious human life with so much potentials. So that is once found very meaningful. Is like a treasure, more precious than a wish-fulfilling gems, If we have something like wish-fulfilling gems, we'll be so appreciative of that. We'll hold it very dear, very preciously. So this human life is even more precious than that. Because with this human precious life, if we utilize in the right way, we can achieve happiness of this life. We can achieve happiness of future lives. We can achieve happiness of liberation, and we can achieve ultimate happiness of fully enlightened state. There's a potential to achieve all those different levels of happiness within this precious human life, which fulfilling jewel or gem do not have all that same potentials. Therefore, is more precious. Recognizing that is important. Other than doing this, there is no offering or practice, So again, as we mentioned last week, the way to repay the kindness of the teachers is to practice, practice offering through our practice, meditations. And the way to practice to make your life meaningful in such way. Grit your teeth and do not let once attained opportunity afforded by human life slip away. If you do not utilize this tremendous potentiality, are you not hard-hearted? So meditating on that, not only is precious, is very rare. Meditating also how rare it is to often, again, in terms of through examples, through the natures, through the causes, through the examples in the Buddha's sutras, he gave many examples. One of the examples is, in the ocean, the yoke that has been kind of, by wind blowing here and there, and there is a blind tortoise under the oceans that comes once every 100 years. The chances of that, the tortoise when it comes to fit into the yoke is very rare. One, it comes only once every 100 years. It's blind. Secondly, the yog is not staying at the same place, is by the wind. So chances the yog is there and that tortoise, blind tortoise, one comes once 100 years and to be able to come into that yog is very rare. So Buddha gave, so he says, such precious human life is very rare. We have to understand, you know. And in terms of nature, it mentions, among the different living beings, human is less than animals, animal less than other beings. So if we compare even the human populations has increased 7 billions, 8 billions. But if you compare with animals, if we compare with even just the ants, just one insect, ant, I don't know whether there is more ant than, there might be more ants than 7 billions. And we are just talking about one kind of insect. If you go into the oceans, just one type of small fishes, probably there are more than human. So if we compare, then again, humans, even though it has increased, but still is very small number compared to others. Within the human beings, not everyone have all these circumstances to practice the Dharma. They don't have all the right conditions and circumstances to be able to practice the Dharma. And so those who have all the right conditions, become even very small numbers, rare. And then in terms of cause, it is mentioned to have a precious human life, you need to practice a pure moral discipline, supported by the practice of generosity, right dedication, prayer, so forth. If we look in ourselves, it's very not easy to keep our precepts and live very moral, ethical life. We have the wish to live moral, ethical life, but it's not easy. We don't want to lie, but it's not easy not to lie sometimes. We don't want to kill any animals, even insects. But sometimes it's not easy. We don't want to steal, but sometimes, people, indirectly, directly somehow steal. Stealing doesn't mean just going to someone's house and then taking something, Sometimes we misuse others, whether it's money of the organizations, money that belong to the country, the state, or individual organization. Those also can become stealing, Not paying what we owe, So like that, when you think in that way, to be able to keep those moral precepts and is not so easy. And if the practice is not easy, if the cause is not easy, the result of that as a precious human life is not easy. And therefore, when you meditate, contemplate, then you begin to see, how rare it is to have such precious human life. So once you have this understanding, recognitions, or awareness, how rare it is and how precious, how much potential it is, then you hold very dear, precious and you want to make most, utilize it properly, make most of it and not waste it. Otherwise, if we don't recognize that, then we might waste it easily. We might waste it, our life, without taking full essence and without being able to make it meaningful. We might waste it due to not having that understanding and awareness. So here, the meditations. So in terms of meditation on precious human rebirth, first you try to meditate on, the 18 qualities, each of those 18 qualities, I think I won't go in each of those in details, Again, those who are interested, you can read, like liberation in your palm, Lamrim, liberation in your palm. There is extensive. Those are, or any of the, I know whether you read Lama Tsongkhapa's middle Lamrim or great Lamrim, also you can find there more details, But the point is you try to go from each of those qualities that you have achieved now within the person. And with each of them, as you go through that, feeling gratitude, feeling how fortunate, lucky that I have this quality. And then you go through each of those qualities, the 18 qualities, recognizing those 18 qualities. And not only do you have these 18 qualities with this precious human life, then you meditate on, how valuable, how precious it is in terms of, the potential it has, the potential to achieve different level of happiness that I just mentioned. And not only for yourself, the potential to be so much help and benefit to others. Again, meditating, through meditation, having the correct understanding and awareness, and then also meditating on how rare it is, how not easy it is to have such precious human life again and again, how rare it is. So again, when you understand how rare it is, you appreciate even more. You hold it even more dear, and you try to utilize it in the best way as much as you can. So that is the point of meditating on the precious human life. However, it is of the borderline, the value to listen to or practice Dharma with the motivation mixed with white, black, and gray aspect of the 8 worldly concerns. 8 worldly concerns, as it is described by Nagarjuna in his letter to his friend king, you are happy, if you gain wealth, but you are unhappy if you don't gain or if you lose the wealth. You are happy, if you have a good experience, pleasant experience. But you are unhappy if you don't have pleasant experience or if you lose that pleasant experience. You are happy if someone praise you, say nice thing about you. But you are unhappy if other people doesn't say nice thing about you or praise you or instead criticize you. You are happy if you have a good reputation and fame, but if you lose the fame and reputation or you have a bad reputation, then you are unhappy. Those are 8 worldly concerns. 4, if you have them, then you are happy. opposite of those four, you have aversion to them. If you have that, you are unhappy. Therefore, you have aversion to them. And so they being, the attachment. So therefore, the attachment to have material wealth, pleasant experience, reputations, praise, and attachment to the state that is opposite of them. And so again, even when we try to listen to the teachings, even when we try to practice, if it's motivated by those 8 worldly concerns, then your practice does not become as pure as it should be. And if the practice is not so pure because your practice has been polluted by the wrong motivations, such as 8 worldly concerns, then the practice does not become as effective, as powerful as it should be. So, here, in some also here in some other teaching, they talk about 3 type of motivation of 8 worldly concern, white, black, gray, The white is if your motivation is black is of course the normal, out of attachments, craving attachment, your motivation craving attachments, and the craving attachment that has been rooted in the self-grasping, ignorance, and that self-grasping ignorance supported by the selfish attitude. And out of that self-grasping ignorance, selfish attitude, then you have this attachments, craving. And when we engage in a practice with such motivation, and that is the black 8 worldly concerns. The white 8 worldly concern is, when you engage in the practice, even if there is no such strong attachments, motivations, strong attachment to any of those 8 worldly concerns, but still there is some stain of selfish attitude. Still there is some stain of selfish attitude. And when that happens, again, is still 8 worldly concerns, even though it's better than the other ones. And the gray one is in some commentary, it explains when even though there is no attachments and even no strong selfish attitude, but there is some strain of self-grasping ignorance. And then that is the gray. So I think these are the 3. But here, here it seems interesting. I wonder whether it is here. The motivation to outdo enemy and protect friends, which is praised by worldly people, but actually is shallow. Maybe it could be the black one. Okay. So your motivation is to protect yourself, protect your families, friends, and outdo others, something people you dislike, your enemy or someone you dislike, So that is in our ordinary world, you say, oh, he's a good family, he's a good children, he's a good parent, he's a good friend, He protect us, our family, our friends, and fight with the enemies, But if you talk from real Dharma point of view, it's attachment and anger. It's attachment and anger. Attachment towards yourself, your family, your friends, and disliking and anger towards your enemy. You know. So therefore, actually, it's shallow. So that's one motivation. So here, I don't know whether that refers to the white motivations here, you know, because in worldly, people think it's a good. If someone behave like that act, then is regarded as good. The motivation to obtain material benefit, universally condemned motivations. And the motivation to obtain, material gain and benefit, that is universally kind of in all the spiritual path, they talk about not being attached to that. All the spiritual path, they talk about giving and living more simple life, just the necessary. I think all the spiritual path, all the different major spiritual path, they talk about that, not to have too much, too many, So I think so when that, then it is a like motivations. And then the motivation to impressing others with some things good and some despise. So that seems to be kind of gray because some, something is good, something despise. Not everyone seems to agree, trying to impress. So that is the gray part here. If you do not meditate about impermanence and death, so forth, thus pass beyond mundane thought patterns, such as eight worldly concern. That is the mundane thought patterns, always thinking of eight worldly concern. Always, how can I have more wealth? How can I increase more wealth? Metro wealth, how can I protect whatever I have? How can I increase more? Or, it's about, how can I have a sensory pleasure more, by looking at beautiful objects, color, shape, whatever, visual form, beautiful visual form. How can I have, more of that? How can I have pleasure through listening to the nice sound, music, whatever, those sound, by smelling, by tasting, by touching. It's all our mundane thought pattern is all about thinking about all those things, Or, how can thinking about, will people praise me? Will people criticize me? Wanting people to praise you, wanting people to like your work, your things, yourself, wanting others to say good things about you and so forth. Or, wanting to be well known, fame, reputation. So that is our, if we don't think about impermanent and dead impermanent, we always think more of those things most time. And your life goes by. And at the end, without having to show really true meaning. But if we meditate on impermanence in general, and especially dead impermanent, and through such practice and meditations, when we recognize and when we have awareness that, I'm not going to be living forever. If maximum I could live up to in the best way is 100 over 100. And that 100 years also pass very quick. But it comes to the end. is sure, is coming to the end. And not knowing when will it come, we might have 50 years more, we might have 30 years more, we might have 20 years more, we might have 10 more, 1 year, we might have just 1 month, 1 week, we don't know for sure. So when we meditate and that not only the life will come to end, but it could come to end any time, any moment. And when you have that awareness and realization that death could come anytime, any moment, then it can stop all of these mundane thought patterns, feeling, I need this, because, in 50 years, I will need this one, I will need that one, and always thinking, I need to do that, I need to do that, I have to do this, I have to take care of that, I have to take it. All this, you have all this thought, all these worry, fears, and all the thought, I need to do this and that, and all the time. Because that is based on your belief or thinking that I will live 40 years, 50 years. But when you have meditation and awareness of that impermanent, that, it could come anytime, then, you don't think so much of that. You don't worry so much. You are less fear. Your mind becomes much more calm. And whatever time you have, you try to utilize it to make it meaningful, to direct your mind to practice more, And so that way you can stop such mundane thought pattern. You run the great risk of having negative motivation dominate your mind. And that's what happens when we don't think of impermanent, dead impermanent, then the negative motivation, negative thoughts dominate in our mind, always attachments, always thinking, I want that, I need that, this and that. And then not only I need that, I want that, there's a fear someone might create obstacle for what I want to get, what I need. And not only fear, sometimes then we start to feel that person's is creating obstacle for me to have that. And then we have disliking, aversion, anger towards. So with that, then our minds get dominated by those negative thoughts, negative feelings, negative emotions, On the other hand, if you practice pure Dharma without those worldly concerns, motivations, and with no pretenses, you quickly and firmly lay the foundation of lasting happiness. Then, whatever meditation practice you do become more sincere, more pure, more powerful, more effective. Then you really started to have a strong foundations for all other realizations and the cause of fully lasting happiness, So, yeah. So of course, it's important to check and watch our motivation and intentions. And then through such, when we watch and when we check our intention, motivation is not so pure, then you put the effort to try to develop it more pure motivations. We can still, even if it doesn't come naturally, but still with the effort, you can try to transform that impure motivation into something more pure motivations. is like, this remind me of story of one of the Kadamba master, Geshe Gungen. There was one Kadamba master called Geshe Gungen. And I think, he was quite well-known thief and robbery bandit earlier his life. But later life, he regretted that, and he joined a monastery and he practiced Dharma. But of course, he still have this strong imprint from what he did most of his life, earlier life. But one of main practice, he was always kind of watching his thoughts, watching his mind. That was one of main practice, always watching his thought, mind, his actions. One time he was invited to a house by a family to do some ceremony. And while he was doing ceremony, where the family was out of the room, outside, because of his imprint from the past, stealing all the time, he saw there's some, in the sack, there was a many tea, and his hand went there to steal. And then immediately, because he watched his actions, mindful, he was aware that he was stealing. His hand was in the back, holding the tea. He held his hand with this hand and shouted, "There is a thief in the house. There is a thief in the house." The family came running, looked around, they didn't see except in him, and said, "There's no thief. Where is the thief?" And he said, here is the thief. He was still holding his right hand, the left hand, which was holding the tea. So anyway, so there's many stories like that. So it was about one story was, he was in a retreat, he was doing a hermitage retreat, and he heard that the people who were sponsoring him, because he needed someone to help sponsor his retreat, and so he heard that his sponsor was coming to see him. So that day he cleaned the room more. He made arranged nice offerings and everything, more than normally he does. Okay, and he sit down and check his motivations. Why am I cleaning more today? Why am I arranging offerings more and more beautifully today? And then when he checked his motivation, his mind, he recognized it was to impress. Because he wanted to impress the benefactors. And he was attached to that, and he wanted to impress. And then he recognized that was not the right intention and motivations. That was not the right pure motivations. It was not the pure intention and motivation. And then he got up, and on the side there is dust. He got full of dust, and he threw to everything that he has arranged, and he messed up everything. And told to his mind, don't pretend, be quiet, stay, So that was again, in his case, at the very beginning, his intention was not pure, but then he watched it, he investigated, analyzed it, and the moment he realized it was not pure, then he changed it, And then he tried to develop more pure intentions, not to impress, but actually with a true intention motivations. And so therefore, again, that is another that we can always try to do. Otherwise, yeah. this card as the half of the grand essenceless worldly pursuit, works of no positive consequences, and spirituality of great heralds. So he say, of course, we need to work for our basic needs, even to practice the Dharma, you need the basic needs. Of course, we need to work for all of that, but, seeing it is essenceless and not being attached to it, not being really attached to the worldly things, worldly pleasures, by seeing, there's no real meaning, there's no real essence in that. And we do that not because we are so attached to that, but because of just basic needs, basic survival. We need those basic needs even to practice. So as long as you don't get attached to it, that's the key. If you don't get attached to it, it is not a problem. If you get attached to it, it becomes a problem. Having money is not a problem if you are not attached to it. Having a power is not a problem if you are not attached to it. Having a fame is not a problem if you are not attached to it. But if you are attached to it, having them can be a problem. And that we see all over the world. When you have 1 million, you want to make it billion. When you have 1 billion, you want to make it 1 trillion. Why is that? Isn't 1 billion enough? Because of attachments. Attachment, wanting more, more, more. And that is same with power, fame, everything's. Why we have problem in the world? People not letting their power go away, trying to hold so on because they're attached to it. Because they are attached to it. Even when you are, when it's time for you to let it go and have someone else who can do better job in that, but people hold them then using sometimes all the power, every power. Why? Because they don't want to let it go, because they are so attached to it. And that could be from big to small, even as a leader of small organizations, So again, the main point is not to be attached to those worldly concern, worldly pursuit, worldly pleasure by seeing them like the husk of the rice. It is something that you don't really, it's essenceless. You don't need it. So therefore you are not attached to that. Instead, take of the essence of Dharma, so that at the time this essenceless human body is left behind, you will not depart with a life with a regret. If we practice the Dharma correctly, purely, while you are alive, your life will be much more easy. Easy in a sense that whatever happens in your life will not disturb your mind so much. because of your Dharma practice, you can apply the right practices so that it doesn't disturb you so much. Of course, it doesn't mean, of course, it is possible, even when you are doing best practice, you could have physical challenges, you could have other challenges, even in relationship, even in financial and all different challenges, obstacles, problem that one might encounter. It could, but the point is when you have good practice, and if you are a good practitioner, Dharma practitioner, you have the tools to deal with that emotionally, mentally. So it doesn't get over you. It doesn't overwhelm you. It doesn't knock you down. It doesn't make you so miserable, so unhappy. You have this method, this tool, the practice, and thereby it makes your life less miserable, less painful, less sufferings. Not only it makes your life, less miserable, less painful, more calm, more peaceful, more joy. Also, you have better relationship with others if you practice Dharma really well. You have your approach is more positive. The way you look at others, the way you respond to others, the way you interact with others. Through that, you can, make other life more happy, less problem, and you are able to help, contribute more to others. And when your life comes to an end, whenever it comes, when you look back on your own life, you have less regret about your life, the way you live your life. You have less regret. And that is such a wonderful way to pass away, to be able to pass away without much guilt, without much regret, calm, peaceful. What a better way. What a better way for you to pass away. What a better way to help those who are left behind. When your dear one, near ones, loved one pass away, calm, peacefully, without much struggles, everyone who is left behind feel much comforted, less pain, less suffering. But when someone dies with so much struggles, so much pain, because of all these things, feeling of guilt, regret, and through such guilt and regret, then it brings many other feelings, And then when you have a lot of pain, a lot of struggles, not only you die, but those loved ones who are left behind, it also disturbs them. It also disturbs them. Furthermore, think to practice immediately. And so through meditation on death impermanence, impermanent general and especially death impermanent, and when we have this understanding realization that is suddenly coming, but we don't know it is coming, it could come anytime. And when we have that awareness, then we will try to practice immediately without postponing it again and again. We postpone because we think there is time. We postpone because we think there's a time to do practice Dharma, maybe next year, maybe in 5 years, maybe in 10 years, maybe after I retire. or maybe after retire, then again we have some other excuse. And we keep on postponing. Why we keep on postponing? Because we feel like there's a time, but which might be just deceiving. You know, I've met so many friends. One friend from Canada, she was so looking forward. You know, she said she has worked so hard and all of that, and she's looking forward to the retirement because then she really wants to dedicate her life to practice. But unfortunately, you know, she died the same year she retired. So many sin like that, many, you know. And so there's no guarantee. And so when you have this awareness that, you know, I might not have that much time. It could be one more year, 1 week, 1 month. So then, you know, you try to, once you have that awareness realization, then you don't postpone, you know, you try to practice immediately. Whatever practice you know, whatever practice you are aware, whatever practice meditations, whatever little or more you know, you try to apply it as much as possible. Drink the water of meditation now and relieve the thirst of wishing to hold life's essence, you know. So he's saying instead of having this, I want to make my life meaningful with the essence in the futures and waiting for that futures to come, try to do not right now, try to practice, try to make it meaningful right now, try to take essence right now instead of just when the water is there and you are thirsty and thinking, I'm going to drink later. Just drink the water there and clear the thirst, the suffering or pain of suffering, just like that. And so then in Lama Tsongkhapa's, Je Rinpoche said, you know, human life found, but it's one time, you know, especially the precious human life with 18 qualities, is more precious than wish fulfilling gem. So hard to regain, you know, it is not easy to find such precious human life again and again, over and over, and so easily lost, you know. And human life is like a water bubble, so fragile. Water bubble is very fragile. And just like that, human life can be so fragile, therefore can easily get lost with the very small things, you know. Is as brief as a flash of lightning. So this flash of lightning, so quick, just one instant. Same like that, human life can be so, just it can be gone right like this in a moment. Seeing this, discard the worldly activities like the house of grain. And you know, so therefore don't be attached to the worldly, you know, worldly things, worldly concerns. Do not be attached to them by seeing there are really no essence. There's no real essence. There's no real meaning. Those are essenceless. And with that understanding, like a house of the, try to get not attached to them. And strive day and night to take the life essence by practicing the Dharma as much as possible. So the 3 levels of spiritual applications. How should you take the essence of opportunity provided by these human vessels? How to make our human life meaningful? It is extremely important to have an understanding of the way of generating actual experience of the general foundation of the path and practice. Therefore, I will briefly explain the process. This explanation has 2 headings. So before the authors go into the actual main work, which is the practice of three scope or capacity, he'd like to introduce the general process of the path and the practice before he go in detail with each different practices, and so that is where. And this explanation, two headings. One is how the path of three levels of spiritual application contains all the teaching of Buddha. And second one, those aim at bringing the two ultimate benefit of liberation from samsara and attainment of omniscience. In the first, Buddha himself first developed bodhicitta. What is the bodhicitta? The aspiration to attain perfect enlightenment or compassion, wisdom, and power as the best means of benefiting all sentient beings. In the end, to benefit all beings, he attained fully enlightenment. Then solely to benefit beings, he taught the holy Dharma. So basically, to begin with the Buddha in his spiritual path, in his spiritual journey, the very first time, the reason for him to cultivate the bodhicitta mind, aspiration mind, is to benefit sentient beings. That is the reason why he developed the bodhicitta mind, to be benefit to other sentient beings. Throughout the path, on the 5 path and 10 bhumi, he engaged in the practice of such as 6 perfections, the practice of generosity, moral discipline, patience, and so forth. For what purpose? To benefit sentient beings. To benefit sentient beings. Also, in the middle, throughout those while on the path, he practiced in collecting the merit, the collection of merit and collection of wisdom. For what purpose? Not for his own individual happiness, but to be greatest benefit to other sentient beings. At the end, he achieved the result of fully enlightened state. The purpose to achieve the fully enlightened state, not for himself, but to be benefit to other sentient beings. And after his enlightenment, he started to share his wisdoms, his experiences through teachings. And the reason he wanted to share his wisdom, his experience, and teach is again to help and benefit sentient beings. So from the very beginning to the end, and to including teachings, all were to help and benefit sentient beings. Okay? The practice he taught fall into 2 divisions. And so he achieved all this enlightenment to help the sentient beings by showing the path. In one of his teachings, he said, I cannot take away your sufferings. Like if you have been pricked by a needle, that someone can pull it down and free from that. I cannot take away your suffering like that. Nor can I wash all your negative karma and obscurations like that you can wash your physical dirt through showering. Nor can I give my realizations to you, like where I can pass my cup to you, or he cannot transplant his realizations to you the way your physical parts can be transplanted. If I cannot do all of that, how can I help you? How can I help you? If I cannot do all of this, how can I help you? And he said, the way I can help you is by showing the path. By showing the path. I have gone through this path myself, and through that, I've achieved this stage. I've gone through that, I have the experience, direct experience, and I can show you how to free yourself from your suffering, your cause of suffering, your delusion, obscuration, and how you can achieve your own, ultimate happiness by showing the path. And that is what exactly here, that is, he showed the path through his teachings and his examples, and that by sharing his wisdom and experiences. The practices he taught, all the teaching he taught, fall into divisions. Those aim at temporary benefit of high rebirth as human and God, and those aim at bringing the ultimate benefit of liberation from samsara and attainment of omniscience. Those are for that benefit. The ultimate reasons for the Buddha to teach is to help us to free from the samsara and the cause of samsara, and to achieve ultimate happiness of fully enlightened state. At the same time, in order to achieve that state, it might require many lifetimes for some. Of course, it would be great if we can achieve that in one lifetime. Everyone would like to that. But the reality and the fact is that not everyone is same boat. Some might be able to achieve more quickly. Some might take more time, depending on many others, conditions, cause and conditions. So if we cannot do in one lifetime, then we do it through practice for many, many lifetimes. In order to practice throughout many lifetimes, continuously making progress over the path, you have to create cause and conditions that you have the right condition to continue to practice in the futures. And for that purpose, then you need to have a high rebirth, such as human life. So if you have high rebirth such as human life, then you have conditions. Even you cannot make a big leap in this lifetime. You make a small progress, but not a big progress. So in the future life, you can continue where you left, and again you can continue to make progress little by little, and then eventually to achieve that fully enlightenment. And for that, then in order to have a that kind of conditions that we can continue to practice continuously in the futures, then you need to create the cause and condition for that. So I think today I will kind of stop here. Any questions, please?
Are there any questions on Zoom? We have one question here in the room. We'll take one question here first. Thank you so much.
My name is Lily.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Geshe. I wanted to know more about the story you told of the practitioner who made his retreat space dirty when the sponsors were coming. What about the motivation did he see that was impure? Because from the point of view I'm seeing, I could understand why he would want the people sponsoring his retreat to see a beautiful shrine that he's using or beautiful offerings. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. He saw his motivation wasn't really to create a really nice offering to the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, the holy objects, merit field, whatever. Also, he recognized it wasn't even to make the sponsors happy. It was more about himself, impress them so they can continue to, they will be impressed with him. They will think he's a good practitioner. That is how he does every day, that they will support him. So it became more of his wanting them to like him, them to support him continuously. And so it became more about him than them. If it was the motivation was not about them liking me or being impressed with me or my practice, whatever, but it was more about making them happy, then of course that would be different. But that is when he looked down, he realized it was more of him in that, being attached to that.
In a similar way, how do we, when we're practicing, avoid attachment to our own ego within our practice?
Yeah. Then you take a handful of dirt and crash to the ego. And that is same. I think definitely, I think that is why we shouldn't be attached to our ego, or we shouldn't have an ego because we do practice. And that is something I think I try to remind very often to our Dharma practitioners, including myself. Sometimes because we practice, then we think we are special than others who doesn't seem to practice the way we practice. Because in teachings, of course, the Buddha's teachings always emphasize in loving kindness, compassion, patience, bodhicitta, bodhisattva. And we talk about that a lot. And sometimes we also try to contemplate, meditate, and practice. And just because of that, then again, that we might think we are more compassionate than others who might not talk so much about those things. Again, that's our ego taking. Sometimes because we are vegetarians or vegans, we might think we are more, and those who are eating meat, we might think they are less, and we are, and then again, it is equal, So again, of course, we can practice whatever we can, whatever way we can, but if it create our ego, then ego or the pride, the delusional pride, then there is a Tibetan saying, the God becoming a devil, The practice is to reduce those delusional pride and ego, but if our practice increase them, then the method actually to reduce them become the method to increase it, and then he said there's no other method, And so that is something that we have to be mindful and careful that we don't kind of enforce our because of whatever practice we do, that we don't reinforce our ego and our delusional pride, while having a confidence in your practice and yourself.
And I believe we have a question on Zoom. Michael, would you like to unmute?
Yes, Geshe, one of our Zoom participants is asking, what are the levels of higher rebirth that we should be wishing for, praying for, so that we can continue our practice?
Okay. I think it depends in individuals, to practice within the Buddhist concept of the sentient beings and the different realms. We talk about 6 realms. Within the 6th realm, there are 3 known as the higher rebirth, higher realms, human, God, demigod. But in terms of practicing the Dharma, it is said the best condition suitable among those three is the human beings. Because in God realms, because they don't have so much sufferings, so then they can be distracted easily. And also we see that on the human realm too. Sometimes we can see with ourselves, and sometimes we see with also practitioners, when there are things going in their life, they are more inspired to study, practice, and that when everything's smooth in their life, then they get distracted. And then they get distant from the Dharma because maybe they feel like maybe, I don't know, they don't need it, or for some example. So, sometimes you see, of course, it's not with everyone, but sometimes with certain individuals, you see that. But when they have some challenges in their life, and then they see the Dharma help, and then again, then again, they continue to study or practice, So, and so same it says in God realms, because there is not so much suffering, as much suffering as like we have in human beings. So then, they get very distracted. And being distracted, not practicing, then they run out of their positive karma and resolve the positive karma. And then, and then negative karma, which is still there, manifest. And then, so then there is one story of a practitioner who was very devoted, and is a disciple of Shariputra, and it is said, from very long distance, when he was a practitioner in the human realms, whenever he see the Shariputra coming, even he was on a horse or something, he will immediately get down to bow down to show respect. That, very devoted. Somehow he was born in a God realms, whether he has the prayer, whether he has a wish or other conditions. And then Shariputra, like Mongolian, they has these psychic powers, and so through that he went there. And then in God realm, it says, he was so distracted. He saw the Shariputra, and from the distance he just waved and went away. At least he just acknowledged and waved him. That is better than not acknowledging and not waving him. So he didn't have time to really, practice. So that is one example they give, how distracted, because you are there's so much distraction. So anyway, so the human beings among all the six realms, the human realms is more balanced. It's not too overwhelmed by the sufferings, nor there's too much distractions like in others, like God realms. So that. But of course, also there's a concept of pure lands, and so some practitioners, pray to be born in pure land. So in pure land, while there's no sufferings, at the same time, there's no distractions like the one in the ordinary God realms, where there are the conditions to practice the Dharma is much more from everything. They're extremely conducive condition to practice the Dharma. So of course, therefore, a lot of practitioners, especially those who believe in those pure lands, that will be the kind of the ideal, one of the ideal place they would like to be born, so they can continue with the right conditions to practice the Dharma, But also there are also practitioners, especially the Bodhisattvas. The Bodhisattvas, they will make prayer to rather to come in the state where there is more sufferance, so they can be more help and benefit. So it depends on individuals, There's stories of the seven Dalai. Is it the seven? I think it was seven Dalai Lama. It's said in the seven Dalai Lama biography. Is that at the time at the seven or first, I think it was seven, when he was passing away, so he told his attendants and helper, make more offerings, make offerings. There's bad sign. There's some bad sign. Make offerings. And so, how can there be a bad sign? You have done everything in your life. If you wish, you can go to any of the Pure Land that you wish. And he mentioned, throughout my life, I made all these prayers to come into the world where there's more suffering, that I can be more benefit and help. But somehow now I see some sign that I'm going to a Pure Land. So he saw that as a bad sign, the sign that he might be going to Pure Land. So he wanted to change that, transform that. That was where. And so, and such is the Bodhisattvas. The Bodhisattvas are, they make the prayers to be born in a place where there's suffering, not a place where there's no suffering. Because being in a place where there's suffering, so they can be more help, benefit to reduce and relieve the suffering of others. And so therefore, so yeah, you can say those two, Pure Land and human realms, where with those precious human realms with the conditions. So it depends on individuals. It depends on individuals. I think if you are more courageous, like the Bodhisattvas, if you are more courageous, probably you will pray to come into the world where there's more sufferings. But if you feel you don't have strength and courage, then maybe Pure Land might be good options. So again, it depends. Okay, so we do the dedications. Yeah, we can say 3 times. Yeah, 3 times. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Michael. Let's begin with the Medicine Buddha mantra for His Holiness. Taya ta om be kanze be kanze maha be kanze raja samugate soha. Taya ta om be kanze maha be kanze raja samugate soha. Taya ta om be kanze maha be kanze raja samugate soha. And then we'll recite the Shanti's Deva's prayer. May all beings everywhere plagued by sufferings of body and mind obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. Next, thank you, Michael. For as long as faith remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then, may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. And then we pray for the long life of His Holiness. In Tibetan, Gangri Rawe Kowe Jing Kandir, Pendang Dewa Mandu Wei Me. Chen Rei Zing Wa Tenzing Gyatso Yi Jape Si Te Bardu Tengyur Chi.
I think we will also dedicate for one of the members, Lauren Rose, her mother, Vicky Rose. I think she passed away yesterday. So again, dedicate for her to have a peace and high rebirth. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.